Namaskar and welcome to Sansad Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching our show Perspective, where we bring you detailed analysis of key national and international issues. Today we're going to talk about the online gaming industry and how can it be regulated, or rather policy or laws can be put in place. Now, India is the world's largest mobile gaming market in terms of app downloads. Revenue from online gaming grew 28% in 2021 to $1.2 billion, and it is expected to reach approximately $2 billion by 2024. The need for virtual entertainment, along with smartphone penetration and affordable internet, is driving this surge in online gaming. India is home to over 275 gaming companies and more than 15,000 game developers as well. However, serious concerns have also been raised about the impact of online gaming on the society, particularly the addictive nature of these games. Information Technology Minister Ashwani has recently said that the central government has started a consultation process with all stakeholders and would soon come up with a proper policy or a new law on online gaming. Over the past 2 to 3 years, many states in India have passed laws banning online games. Telangana was the first state to promulgate an official ban on online gaming and betting in 2017, followed by Andhra Pradesh in 2020. Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Karnataka also came up with laws on this issue, but the respective high courts either struck down those laws or put a stay on them. Rajasthan government has informed the High Court that it has drafted a legislation to curb the menace of online gambling and betting as well. So today we'll discuss and analyze all aspects of this issue. We'll try to understand more about the ecosystem of online gaming and how can it be better regulated and of course the better part of it, the good part of it, be promoted as well. And for more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of experts. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with, we have with us Khushbu Jain, who's joining us, advocate cyber law, and Dr. Aruna Sharma is with us also, member Digitization Committee of RBI. Both of them have written extensively on this issue. Dhruv Garg from the online gaming industry is also with us. He is the policy and legal head of All India Gaming Federation. Welcome, all of you, to Sansad Television. Let me begin with you, Dhruv, and let's first start by understanding, as I was pointing out earlier, a bit more about the ecosystem of online gaming. How and how and why and when as well this industry has become so big in India that it's now in several segments, it's a market leader.
Thank you, Shah. So to begin with, I think we can start our journey for about, if you look back 14 years back or so, that's when fantasy format of the online gaming came into picture. And if you see only last 3 to 4 years have we seen a major jump in terms of the number of companies that have come up, the startups that have come up, and also investments. So if we talk about, let's say, even last 2 years, we are looking at about $1.6 billion investment only in online gaming in India. So what I can say is that though the industry started about 14 to 15 years, online gaming generally, but it has seen a massive jump in last 4 years, especially during the COVID period. And within the online gaming industry, the pay-to-play model is something that is seeing a majority of the revenues involved. As I was saying, so even only in last 4 years, we have seen a jump in the investment as well as revenues. And what we are seeing is that majority part of the revenue comes from the pay-to-play model online gaming, where people put in money and win some money. And usually these are games of skill, which is a constitutionally and legally protected business activity. So that's where major of the revenue and the investment is going. And that, I think, is something that the central government should definitely look into regulating, to not only just support innovation and growth of the industry, but to also take care of the user concerns of negative behavior, etc.
Okay. And then one more aspect, on which there have been a lot of concerns which have been raised. Do you agree that most of these games are addictive in nature as well?
So addiction, as I said, it's a technical term, so I don't think so I'm qualified. But what I'll say is, definitely there are concerns of some negative behavior or addiction involved if it is done as anything. If it is done a lot, it is a problem. So I think there definitely is a concern, but there are also technical and sort of behavioral measures that can be put in place by all the online gaming platforms, which can reduce, for example, self-imposed time limits, self-imposed spend limits, certain kind of indicators to show that you are playing more than you should. So those things, I think technical measures can be put in to counter that.
And how much of these technical measures are put in place by the industry players fairly to ensure that there are no negative effects on the users?
So at least if I can talk about All India Gaming Federation, so some of the members that we have, so they have definitely put in, let's say, in terms of where users can take control of how much time they spend. They can put in time limits where once they put in, they can't come back and play more than that. They can put spend limits in it. Sometimes some people also have AI or machine learning algorithm which can tell a player that you have been playing for, let's say, 4 hours. Do you think that it's a good idea, etc. So these things already, some of it is already there. The only problem is, but this is only best practice. It's not legally sort of defined by the government, and there's no regulation backing it up. If a central regulation comes up with these, user-defined, self-imposed restrictions, then I think that across the industry we can see adoption of these measures across all companies.
Okay, fair enough. And the way Dhruv is classified, looks like there are two aspects of this. I'll start with you, Aruna ji, and let's look at both of them. One is, of course, the legal aspect of it. How can a policy or a law been put in place, and what that policy or law can take into consideration to weed out the bad part and give a push to the good part as well. But on the other aspect, on the social aspect as well, the concerns vis-a-vis the society, the addictive nature, the betting part, the gambling part. So let's begin with that, Arunaji. How do you assess the issues in these two segments?
Okay, like if you heard the words carefully of what Dhruv was saying, what he was telling about was the player's control or player self-defining the time limits and the limits which you are doing. So by no law you can fix the time spent. Like it is like a physical game. How much you want to play, how much you as an adult you want to play, how much as a child you want to play. Whether you want to be a professional player, then you spend your whole time under coaching in a physical game. So you have to understand this very carefully that all these games have a filter which the player itself can define and put for oneself. So it needs an educating of the player. So social concerns, when we talk about, it's more about the educating them. And when you call it about the addictive nature of it, then these red flags can easily be created by the player themselves when they are getting into it. Then the second part of it, it is very important when we are talking about the rules and regulations. And as you mentioned about Rajasthan, if it is a gambling, yes, it's a matter, it will come under the IPC. But gaming is skill. And it is now being defined by all the court judgments, and they have decaded it under skill. And why under skill? I'll just spend a minute on that. Because when you call up skill, the outcome of any game depends on the knowledge, ability, and the skills of the player. Outcome is not predetermined. So the more you play, the more you get it. So in the sense, the gaming can be used to hone up the skills. It can also be an educative tool. It can also be a bridge of digital divide, because it all depends with what lens you're trying to look. So when you look at the government regulation which we are talking about, what they have to look after is that they have to clearly define skill and the parameters which will define what you mean by skill, and what you mean by gamble, right? What you mean by a game of chance. So whatever filters into a game of chance, yes, then the gambling laws and everything will apply. But what does not filter and fulfills the parameters of being a game of skill, then it remains a game of skill, whether it is a free game, whether it is a paid game. So just by paying, it does not become a game of chance. Because like I said before, the outcome depends. It's not predetermined. The second thing which is very, very important is that because it depends on the knowledge part of it and honing part of it, then these filters are possible. And that is what regulations should say, that each game must put this filter, and that should become right in the beginning so the player can define the filter for oneself and then play accordingly. That's what you go about it. And then what is really equally important in the legislation is that you cannot stop a gaming industry, because ban has been ruled out by all the high courts when we are moving ahead with it, because it's a platform. Gaming is a platform. Like I go and play in the ground, or I sit in the room and play it, or I go to a club and play a game of cards. So these are different platforms which are providing that opportunity to play, and that is where it works upon, and that based on that, the taxation will come.
Okay.
So this is how the regulation should walk the path, and definitely not beyond it.
Okay.
And it is like the players, the fantasy games, what the Mr. Garg was also mentioning. All this, it is participative. You are a part of the
Indeed.
player. You create your own team, and you hone up your skill. And depending more the skill, more the knowledge, more the ability, more the chances of winning. So it's completely depends on the player, and definitely not on the chance on which it is going to be. So
Okay.
the moment the clarity comes in the regulation, it is a game of skill. Rest of the things will fall in place.
Okay.
Automatically, it will fall in place, and that will go a long way. And
Okay.
the social concern, what you were talking about, it is comes from educating. वो एक जमाना था ना, कहते थे खेलोगे कूदोगे होगे खराब. So it's like exactly now that खेलोगे कूदोगे is shifting into your mobile or into your console or into come to your thing. How much of the parental control under 18, the games which are not allowed for under 18, a KYC discipline, all that come in the regulation. And then a constant warning to the player when they are crossing the self-defined limits is something which will take it to a long way and enable this gaming to for its positive part of it
Okay.
in the coming days, which I feel like I'll give you an example,
We'll,
which I wrote in my article.
Arunaji, we'll come to the positive part in a while. You know,
Correct,
let's first
correct. Fine, fine.
deal with the concerns here, and then Khushbu is also here with us. Khushbu, as Dr. Aruna is referring to, you know, as far as the path to regulation is concerned, some important aspects which she has highlighted. One is defining skill. What is skill? So that, you know, in consequence, a game of skill is defined. Which game is a game of skill? Which game is a game of chance? And also defining, you know, betting, gambling as well, how that can be put in check. Limitations, putting limitations, these, you know, the self-imposed limitations, self-regulation by the player and perhaps by the developer as well. In some way, there can be some connection. So how can these aspects can be put into that regulatory framework? And in addition to that, if you have more suggestions, which should be focused upon?
Much has already been said by my earlier panelist, but let me also take a liberty. So when you talk about regulation or when you talk about gaming industry, there are a lot of gray areas. We have been using gaming, gambling interchangeably, and with this gray area of skill and chance and preponderance over whether it is chance or skill has made things little more dicey. When it was physical form, things were a little more easier to regulate and to impose restrictions or to put under the ambit of law. But the moment things have gone with internet or online usage, this area has become a little more dicey and gray, and resulting into a situation where we are today that the legitimate industry players or industry people who are into skill or pure gaming are not getting the benefits they should have. And at the same time, the people who are doing gambling, using the internet, using the benefit of internet are the ones who are more benefited. So to look into that, coming back to your direct question that what are the regulatory wish lists we need to have? I think we need to have a vital requirement that is a proper KYC. That we need to have a KYC driven mechanism for both gaming operators and also for the players to ensure time and again that there is a conscious effort that can be put in if in case of any foul play has been found by the stakeholder in the action. The second would be that many of the gaming operators apps belongs to the offshore jurisdictions. So any new set of law has to be established beyond doubt that there is an applicability to the offshore players or offshore gaming industry which are existing in India, which are targeting Indian audience and Indian end users. So that's a second one. Third, which you have to bring in is streamlining the process to obtain license and renewals or other aspects, and also have a regular watch to ensure the licenses are not being misused for any other illegal activities. Hence, they would want to renew their license.
Okay.
The fourth would be to have focus, that we need to have a focus on setting up of an independent regulatory body. I understand self-regulation, but I think that's not been working. We are looking into self-regulation from past some time, but I don't think so it works the way it has to work. So we need to have an independent regulatory body that understands the nuances of gaming industry as a sector with in-depth knowledge and clarity.
Okay.
Similar to that of, what we have done it with real estate sector, which has dedicated regulatory body. The fifth one would be that once we get a central law on gaming, certain elements have to be put in, which is definition of coming back from Arunaji's point, then we need to have a clarity on definition of skill, game of skill, game of chance, so that industry can follow those nuances rather than, there are a lot of judgments of Supreme Court where Supreme Court have intervened and given a definition to that what constitutes to game of chance and skill. But I think now is the time that regulation comes in place, which clears that clear definitions that this is chance, this is skill, and this will formulate into the gaming. This will come under the radar of gambling. Hence, these are the punishments if some gambling happens, and these are the laws.
Okay.
So I think these are the few areas which one has to look into. And also we are talking about today is the state where we have laws state-wise. This becoming a concurrent list. State has a power to enact law. State has enacted different laws where there are prohibitions when it comes to gambling. But again, the gray area of definition, whether it's fitting into skill or chance, whether it can get into gambling or gaming, has created a lot of issues, where I think is the aspect of interministerial committee has been formed, and where we need a central regulation that makes it clear. Because when we talk about online gaming, it doesn't restrict to one state. It doesn't even restrict to one country. It is borderless, fenceless.
Yeah,
so
indeed.
we need at least one law which governs in India. And following that, there can be some amendments state-wise, but at least we need one holistic law that gives definitions, that create laws, the regulatory wish list I put in place. Those things should be part of it.
Okay. Indeed, that pretty much sums up main aspects, and I'm sure all the stakeholders involved in these consultations will be looking at all these aspects. But as Dr. Sharma was pointing out, not all is wrong with the gaming industry. Not all is bad. There are some good aspects as well. Let's try and understand those also, so that they can also be taken into consideration when we're talking about this regulatory framework. Mr. Garg, I'll start with you. What are the good aspects which the gaming industry brings to the table?
So, Vishalji, as Arunaji already said, that in terms of the positives, so one thing is obviously the macroeconomic benefits that the industry brings to the nation. So in addition to thousands of jobs, potentially lakhs of jobs, if you look at indirect economy also, if you look at the investment FDI that is coming into the country, if you look at the startup, we already have 3 unicorns in the country in this sector, and we are going to have multiple unicorns which are above $500-600 million valuation. So the macroeconomic benefits are obviously, there's no doubt. The industry is going at about 28 to 29% CAGR, so there's no doubt about its growth prospect also. On the other hand, for the players also, what you see is that there are 2 kinds of players also. One are casual players who play once or twice with their family or friends, and they're also professional players. So it also gives some of the players to A, hone their skills, B, create a social sort of environment to interact in on something which they agree with, create a community, share that bond while playing those games. Then also for professional players, they can also monetize their skill set and while playing those games and earn something out of it. Then also, if you look at it in the background, we also see that the government was talking about the AVGC sector. So a big part of it is animation and gaming. So we see that it will also give a lot of employment and benefits on the sense that the AVGC sector in general, because of the indirect effect, will improve. So these are the broadly the factors that I see as positives with the industry.
And what does the gaming industry expect in terms of what more can be done? Because when we're talking about central law, regulatory framework as well, what can be done to further give a push to the positive side of the gaming industry?
Correct, Vishal. So as now I'll pick up from what Arunaji said and Khushbu said. So the clear distinction between game of skill and game of chance is definitely necessary. The courts have given the definition. What the government needs to do is sort of give clarity to that definition and apply that definition so that every Indian company at least knows what are their games are protected as games of skill. And also, as Khushbu has said, there are a lot of bad actors, offshore gambling and betting, which are clearly betting and gambling, operating in India. So once this if you have the good, if you can define the good guys, the bad guys, definitely everyone falling outside will become the bad guy. And then either under the state public gambling acts, they can be controlled, or the online, if center takes up that mantle also, then they can be targeted. So first thing is clear distinction between game of skill and chance and application of it. I differ a bit with Khushbu. I definitely agree that there should be government oversight. There should be a regulator or a appellate body or an oversight committee on the government level, but self-regulation also, because there you have to understand, if you put too much in government's hands, sometimes what happens is it slows down the innovation. So what I think a 3-tier structure would work here, where self-regulation is definitely the middle structure, where on top of it there can be government oversight. So that is something that we think is a good idea to have, and definitely player protection is something. It can include KYCs. It can include ways to tackle with negative behavior and things like spending too much money or time. It can also have certain fair and responsible gaming policies, which include, let's say, ensuring that the platforms are technically sound, there is no foul play, there is no fraud, there are no issues of money laundering, etc. So all these aspects, we think, if are brought into a central regulation, and the states do not go on banning because the central regulation comes in, the states will not need to keep on banning even the good guys with the bad guys, because they can confuse it. Then the industry will get a positive impetus. It will give investors confidence in the companies to have the runway, upward trajectory runway where they can keep going. So that's, I think, what the industry is looking at.
Fair enough, fair enough. Dr. Aruna, from your perspective, ma'am, and I'll come to you, Khushbu, as well, before we bring this to an end. But since you're pointing out, various positive aspects as well, and as Dhruv is also emphasizing as to how they can be put in, in the center of this conversation. Once there are those gray areas which Khushbu was referring to, you were also pointing out, they can be identified, a proper definition, a proper framework is put in place. Is that all, or what else might be required?
I'll put it this way, that there is a lot of positivity in it. Because when you talk of honing of skills, it gives a lot of knowledge. If it's esports, it gives a lot of knowledge about a particular game, which an individual can acquire and enjoy the real game. Second thing is, it can also help in tuning the mind for a holistic planning when you are going about it. And that makes a lot of difference. Like, I know my son used to play a game which was related to, if there is a migration, what you have to do, you have to cater for housing. If it crosses a number of population, you have to cater for schools, you have to cater for infrastructure, everything. Now, this kind of a game, if town and country planning people play, the mind gets tuned to it, that how you have to go about it. So a multifarious thinking kind of a mind capacity can also be developed by, if the games are good and chosen well. And here the parental responsibility cannot be passed on to the gaming industry. It is for the parents to have a time control and for adults to go for the switches. And when you're talking about the various aspects that are needed, I feel this is a wonderful instrument for the digital divide also. Because, even feature phones have got some games where color distinction is there, commands are there, the skills are there, all that can be positively used as a good positive technique, besides what Mr. Garg said, that it also enables in the employment, in expansion of the industry, and developing lots of attitude and everything on it. And I'm also in favor of having an SRO, because I always say that the self-disciplining makes a lot of difference, that all the members follow KYC, all the members take care of anti-money laundering laws. All the players, when you become a member, whatever parameters are set for skills, you abide by it. If somebody is crossing, it is a SRO, which can be the first pointer to it, that you're crossing and you're entering into game of chance. Therefore, follow the game of chance. And once this definition is decided at the central government level, what state governments are doing is treating it as a gambling or betting. And therefore, they have a rights under IPC. Otherwise, they have no rights. The state governments have no rights. Let that be very clear. It's only if it's gambling under IPC, they have a right. But the moment the central government defines these games and defines the skills and defines the SROs and the penalties, then it will be governed by the central government law. And this interministerial committee is a very good movement.
Indeed.
Where, it is settled now. The driving seat is mighty. So the things will fall in place. And it will not be treated as an OTT, because outcome is not predetermined. It will not be treated as an entertainment or amusement or just a recreation. It is for honing up the skills. It will come up and it will be treated as a platform for taxation purposes. It will not be treated as a product.
Okay.
So that will also make a difference. So these things have to come out.
Indeed.
Like Khushi was saying, has to come out with clarity
Indeed.
in the central legislation, what we are talking about.
Indeed.
And then just one point.
Yes.
69A, if we amend and give the powers to stop the international games which are not abiding by the Indian law, that will enable to control them when we are moving ahead.
That indeed is also a very, very important aspect of the entire regulatory framework. We're running very short of time, but Khushbu, before we bring this to an end, final 1 minute concluding comment from you.
Right.
All right. So I think to conclude, for a dynamic industry like online gaming, a robust and enabling regulatory framework is what is most effective way to allow players to enjoy safely while at the same time deterring the unscrupulous operators. And such a framework would also enhance the operator accountability while ensuring transparency. First. Second, we also need a well-defined regulatory structure that will encompass responsible gaming policies, and a requirement will further help encouraging appropriate gaming behavior among the players, because we have been seeing a lot of issues which are happening when it comes to players also, and entering into a metaverse, this will increase a lot. Third, it will also provide a required impetus to overall gaming sector, like driving an entrepreneurial ambition, propelling more unicorns in this industry, boosting investors' confidence, enabling job creation, enable greater benefits to the government also, because while formalization of this industry, there would be aspect of tax collection, as Aruna ji and Sir was talking before, tax collection that will aid to the exchequer of our country. It will also provide a fillip to the entrepreneurs operational in this sector and help in shaping the industry to step into the new era of progress with transparent financial operations while protecting common citizens.
Okay. Indeed, once again, you rightly summed it up there, all aspects. Thank you so much, Khushbu, Dr. Aruna Sharma, and Mr. Garg as well, Dhruv Garg, for sharing your views and insight with us and our viewers, as our experts were pointing out various aspects of the online gaming industry, why there is a need for regulation, bringing in transparency, accountability, and also defining what is a game of skill and what is a game of chance. Very crucial to dealing with various other gray areas when we're talking about the online gaming industry. And there are various positives as well, which can be then benefits from them can be reaped once the regulatory framework is in place. The consultations are in progress, and we'll keep a close watch on all of them and keep you updated on all the details here. Till then, keep watching Sansad Television. Thank you.